China is getting rid of its Grandpa fighter jets, but they may make a comeback for one more mission against Taiwan. It says that the Cold War fighter was once a mainstay of China's Air Force is finally being retired. The last of the Chengdu J-7, a Chinese copy of the 1960s-era Soviet MiG-21, may be completely phased out of active service this year, according to state-sponsored Chinese newspaper Global Times. But that doesn't mean they won't fly again. There are indications that China may turn J-7s into suicide drones to use in a massive attack on Taiwan. We'll talk about this and much, much more. In fact, we have a crazy, crazy quote out of Vlad's speech to talk about. And, of course, I watched the 3-hour speech last night, and I'll update you on pretty much everything that you should know about this. It's only confirming what we've been saying for the longest time. We are very, very close to war. So we'll be right back right after this with much, much more. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. What is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today we're going to cover a lot of stories happening right now, so make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com and find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today. When you go over there, you'll see that it is all done by thumbnail. Look for today's thumbnail, Sarmat event. This is not going well. Once you click on that, it will bring you to every single article, tweet, video, picture, document we're going to show you here today. That way you have a source for it. At the very bottom, there is a yellow bar. That is the overflow. That is all of the stuff that it could not fit into the show or is things that people argue about nonstop. That will be down there. We, of course, have a large live chat here of great people. If you are constantly watching the replay, again, tomorrow's show should be a much earlier one. So if you are an East Coaster, tune in tomorrow around 5 p.m. Pacific. So again, we'll have an earlier show tomorrow for any of you guys who have not liked the recent late shows. It's not really helped to the Foo fam. Just so you guys know, we've had issues for the last few weeks since we changed over systems. And then, of course, I also do now also have a day job as well. So I'm changing my schedule, so I should be able to do earlier shows. So let's get into the news. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So let's see. Let's go over. We have a lot here. In fact, the first story was kind of switched around, but so the whole thing about the jet is they have been amassing radars. They actually took out a lot of the Flight 24 radars in China. In fact, they went in person and removed a lot of that gear. But folks in China have been speculating that they're amassing a giant air force. Now, that would make sense since they did build the largest navy in the world, and it happened virtually overnight. It was like one day they were like the third or fourth largest navy, and then just one day they were like, oh, well, we're sad to report that China's the largest navy now. More ships than the U.S. Now, people always go, well, the U.S. has more carriers, and the carriers are more, important. But China, again, was supposed to have 4 carriers by 2030, which is another 7 years out. They already have 3 fully operational ones, and I guess the only reason the third one's not fully operational is because they don't have enough pilots. but they have 3 fully operational full-on carriers, and they also have a drone carrier. So they have this new tech stuff that, of course, is pretty insane stuff. But now Putin is actually warning, and by the way, so these jets, if they're turning all of the old jets into drones, it kind of backs up these theories of how World War III would happen, and if somebody did ever end up trying to go into the U.S. So really crazy stuff. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Putin warns of global war and makes veiled nuclear threat in deranged speech as he doubles down on UKR. Now, I will say this. They always add a word in here, and I watched the entire speech. I wouldn't have, personally, I don't think it was deranged. I mean, you could say it was full of falsehoods or this or that. And again, they fact-checked it. That was the first thing that all of the mainstream media did this morning, is fact-checked its claims about the Western nations. But if you actually go look at what he's claiming, there were some things that were true, and they fact-checked in a way where they said, well, it's technically this and this and that, but the way he said it was technically wrong. It's like there are some points that he made that were true. And again, I think very soon you're going to see this whole kind of witch hunt. If anyone questions the narrative, people are going to be saying that they're supporting Russia. I'm not supporting Russia in one bit. But I will say this, when you see both sides, and then you see, for the people that don't actually watch the 3-hour speech, the cliff notes are essentially lying, then I just highly recommend people watch stuff for themselves. It was very eerie. He talked about ancestors and about how they are going to be taking back what's theirs, sort of thing, that they're going to look at their real life experience with what happened. They're basically saying that we went through World War II. We need to take that experience and directly apply it here. So, I mean, it's kind of obvious what's next. He also let his people know that we have back. China's got our back. This is not going to end without us having UKR back, and mentioned other states. And now they're, of course, saying that he's going to absorb Belarus. We'll talk about that here in a little bit on leaked documents. But Dex, what do you think about the whole warns of a global war and makes veiled nuclear threats? So do you think people are thinking that what he's saying is actually Western propaganda? Because he's now saying it directly from his mouth. Everyone is saying global war. But I guess we'll be crazy up until the last day.
I guess it depends on who is the actual instigator of this global conflict. But if it's him and he's saying it, then that puts a lot of weight to the words. It's definitely one of the things that they're calling out from the speech, but it's also one of the things that they have said over and over again, especially with the nuke threats. And these were veiled nuke threats this time, but they've had plenty of opportunities in the past to tell us that, and they have.
Well, and by the way, he made a big part of his speech about, who started it. He basically says that the Western states started it. He went over how he said at the beginning, he went through and told the public, kind of as we covered it, actually. He said in the very beginning, we asked for guarantees that none of these countries would impede on our borders and put any kind of weapons. They put out this thing in the very, very beginning before the conflict, or at the very beginning, I think, and they said, if you guarantee that you will not put nukes or weapons or soldiers in these areas, then we'll kick back and we'll kick rocks and we'll leave. If you remember back then, a lot of people were saying, yeah, why don't we just do that? But we said no. But not to say that even if we did do that, do you think they stopped? Most people think no anyways, but now it does appear, from what he's saying in the speech, that it does appear he wants to bring back the former USSR. But that would confirm some of the stuff that, 10 months ago everybody thought was propaganda, because we didn't hear a lot from Russia's side at that point. There's a very fine line to figure out the truth and what is propaganda here. We don't exactly know what's real and what's not at this point. So I try to look at the big picture of things and say, regardless of, who's powering this or who's behind this or whatever, is going on here, it it it's not appearing to be a global war here soon. They're lining up for it. It's like you can argue about what kind of plane is lining up on the runway, but somebody else can go, that's definitely a plane. I mean, like it's a war and it's brewing, and we need a miracle for it to not happen. That's my opinion. What's yours? I listened to it, and I do believe it matters who translated it, because at one point, the channel I was watching, I accidentally closed, and I had to go into a second one, and the second one had a horrible translator, just kept saying and that channel decided not to turn off Vlad in the background, so you were hearing Vlad's Russian, and you were hearing this translator, but they didn't adjust the volumes. So they were both equal volumes, and you couldn't hear exactly what was being said. And he would talk, and it was almost like he was being interrupted by what he's supposed to be translating. But the other translator, the way he delivered it, it sounds like he got a grasp of how Vlad was actually delivering the speech. It was very eerie. He said it with this kind of cadence and how he said it. You could tell Vlad's got points with his people. His people actually do appreciate what he's saying. So regardless of what you think about what he's saying, his people are supporting him in this, and he's saying that Western nations are the enemy, and that that we are NAZIs, that we're the new Germany, and many people are backing that statement in Russia. Not everybody, but a good percentage, and I would say it's the majority are supporting Putin in the special military operation. Now, if you can prove otherwise, I'd love to have sources on that, because everything I see that's coming out of their media is saying that we are doing this, that the U.S. is doing this, and that we're enemy number one right now. They barely talk about UKR. This whole speech was talking about us, not about UKR. He basically did the speech on how we're at war with the U.S. and NATO. He didn't do a speech about UKR. He mentioned UKR maybe 1 out of every 10 times he was mentioning the U.S. and NATO. So, and it's very eerie because of what he's saying. They're building houses and all sorts of things for their soldiers. If you join the military, essentially in really rough times there, because there is rough times, he admitted that all these sanctions, we've cut out products. I mean, like you can't even go down the street and buy a Coca-Cola, right? You can't buy most of the Western products that come from other parts of the world. But he said these are hard times. But if you are with the military, and if you get a job with us, if you get a job with anybody, you're going to have cheap rent, you're going to have easy housing, and they're building thousands and thousands and thousands of homes for the future soldiers. And it shows me that they're really trying to pump this up and get a lot of people involved, which I think is because it's about to get a whole lot bigger. The sensitive U.S. military emails spill online. Dex, do you want to go over what happened here? And obviously, I talked about this in the short shareable video over on Marfoogle News, our other channel. But you want to go over this with what your opinion is on this, since you're more educated in computer.
Seems like they totally screwed this one up. Apparently, they're using a cloud service from Microsoft. They were hosting email and storing a large amount of email on this service. And by the way, the service for the military or DoD is separated. So these cloud companies, they always create these special areas just for, the government. If they're doing, especially with DoD, they have DoD. They're basically separated off. They're not part of the rest of the network. They're not part of the rest of the hardware. They basically build their own cloud just for them, so they can have a more secure area. But in this case, I guess the server or the group of servers or the configuration they were using for this mail system, they failed to put a password on it. So all of this mail, lots of email, was accessible to the open public. Now, fortunately, somebody found it and notified them, and they were able to get it resolved. But they don't know who else got on there because it wasn't. It was wide open. It was no password required. So, um, it's a lot of sensitive data. Nothing that was classified so far. What they looked through, they didn't find anything that was in the classified category. It should not have been, because everything on there should have only been unclassified data. But definitely not a good thing, because I think some of the groups that were on there were Special Operations Command and other special military units from the DoD. It was their emails that were accessible.
Yeah, so it was very important people that ended up having their stuff through. We have See Hard Think. What's going on? Moonlight Aurora. Let's see here. Joyce McLean. We have Critterfest Sanctuary. Jake. Hey, how are you doing? Okie Mouse. Tamara S. Patrick's 45. Ilea. We've got our wonderful mod in the house. Make sure to go check her out on marfugglenews.com/friends. We also have again, any of the mods, if you see the mods, make sure to thank them by going over to marfugglenews.com/friends. They put in their time to keep this a helpful and peaceful place. They also are a great resource if you have questions and things. Most of them will be happy to answer them. California loves Marfoogle, says In Captain. George Greyovac, is that right? Says revelation does not go in order. God is the only one who knows the time or hour. Rapture happens when God wants. That's right. Well, and the thing is, you always hear that no man knows the time, the minute, or the hour. Well, you always hear somebody say that when somebody is claiming that a certain day, that the end is happening or some big event. There are some events that the dates have been right about lately, but as far as, that's why we don't really do dates. And I also don't think that anybody's going to know when the end happens. But you can do a guessing game. It's kind of like guessing which stock will, blow up or, go completely bankrupt. It's a guess, but it's based on information that surrounds it, right? As far as the end, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think we're close to the beginning of an entirely different world. And sadly, I think that many people are going to be caught off guard, even though the writing's on their face. They're going to track, trace, and basically pin all of us down if nothing changes. CJ Blaze is here. Nice to see you guys. So far, again, we have CJ and Ilea in the house. Thank you. I saw Trinity the other night. Thank you so much. Redeemed, Forgiven Sinner, never do dates. Yes. Old Rider is in the house. Thanks for saying what's up. Let's see here. Jeremy Perry. We have Thor Odinson. Yeah, it says buy Fidelity and defense stocks. Yeah. That would be this would be the time to do it. Damn Roku. Rhiannon S. Adam, did you get the video I sent you? No. Did you text it, Rhiannon? And then Curb Creeper, what is happening? We have Stuku Veloskov, T Rose Rose, Flip TK, Matthew Shaw. But I will check, Rhiannon, and if it's something I can get on the show, if you can, go over to marfugglenews.com/playmyvideo and submit it there, and we could get it on the show if it's something we can show. All right, thank you, by the way. Thank you, everybody. Prophecy is not the same as prediction, says Nickel Wise. That is very true. And then Dex. So this is justices are completely confused during arguments in the Section 230 case against Google that could reshape the internet. And it is true. This is something that could possibly affect all of us on YouTube and every other platform. Dex, do you want to talk about why they're confused? And I could probably see this even from the article we read last night, why they would be confused. They're arguing for something that's like, okay, is this because they're saying that because they know about it, about the terrorism on the platform, that since they delete it, they know it exists, and they're trying to argue this, or what?
No, this is the YouTube one. So that one is tomorrow. The one today was with YouTube. And for one of many examples is they were trying to explain thumbnails and explain how the content creator creates the content, but then YouTube will show the thumbnail or even generate the thumbnail from the video. And then that would then be presented. And then an algorithm would use that and show or recommend that. And even that conversation got the justices kind of like confused about what do they mean, what is it doing. And I get it. I mean, this is pretty technical, it's semi-technical stuff in the shape of how YouTube works, and I'm envisioning that these justices didn't spend their careers being social media gurus or creating video and content on YouTube. They're lawyers, and then they were judges, and then now they're Supreme Court justices. And I imagine they probably spent 80 plus hours a week with their head in the law, not on social media. So a lot of confusion here with the tech and what's going on. These attorneys were trying to argue it. They were trying to explain it to them. They even chimed up numerous times and saying, "I just don't even get what you're talking about. Can you start over, or can you explain this?" So in some ways, it's kind of comical, but the one thing I took out of this is the examples that they were talking back in some of their conversations were along the lines of, hey, if an algorithm works equally to everyone, in other words, it would either promote a bad video the same as it would promote a good video, then the algorithm is neutral. And if it's a neutral algorithm, then all is fine. But if it's not a neutral algorithm, then it might be breaking Section 230, or at least that was the inferred line you would hear. So if anything comes, if the one thing that might come out of this could be really good, it'd be nice if all of a sudden algorithms that were used were equally used for everyone, and there was no things like shadow banning happening.
Okay, but
that would be nice.
And that's the point. What folks who do not create, they wouldn't understand some of the stuff that they're talking about in this. But as far as the algorithm, so say what's even crazy is that there are channels around me, my peers, that are covering almost the exact same things. They're covering current events, but if they haven't been marked yet, if you're marked, there's something called a P-score that was discovered by Nerd City, and they put it out, and the day they discovered it, everybody ran and checked their P-score. It was actually available in the public kind of data. If you went to a website, you could right-click and say inspect, and it was in that. If you've ever accidentally done that, been on a website, hit inspect, and saw all of the coding over on the side of the page, that actually showed a channel's P-score. It's kind of like rating a movie M for mature, or R for rated 17, or R17, or PG-13. And that would affect it in the algorithm. But they didn't tell the creators what it is. It's kind of like, telling a director and rating their movie and not telling the movie what they rated their movie, and then putting it out to the world, and basically whoever could see it was based on a secret rating that nobody knew about. And that's what happens. And I could see it when our score went down, and when it disappeared, and I never got to see what it actually was back then, but it was like, you can tell. You absolutely know it. You can look at the actual data and see when it went off a cliff. And it's not that we have our audience is all through sharing. This is all through people bringing you guys in. That's it. This is like, you guys are the only force that drives this show. Otherwise, if you think, oh, well, they recommend you, but that's because you were watching somebody directly related. But there are people covering the exact same things that haven't been marked, and they can still have viral. It's kind of like what we found out with Twitter. Twitter had a whole list of things on all of these people, and Elon put it out. And what it was is, on the back end, somebody would have like do not amplify, or they would have trend blacklist, or they would have all blacklist, search blacklist. So PV, James Oak, he was put on a search blacklist. So even if you put in the exact name of the account, it wouldn't show you. You would have to find it from somebody else's, or you'd have to grab it from somewhere else, right? Or from his links that give you the direct link to it. With somebody else, do not amplify. That basically means, they can do what they want, but we're not going to push them in our algorithm, and we're not going to suggest it to new people. Even if the metrics are there, even if people are watching the right amount of time, even if people are liking and subscribing and commenting and all of that, if there's a mark on it, then it's not going to affect it. So you see peers doing the same exact thing, and they're skyrocketing, or they're going downhill. And it's like, that there's a secret system in place here. With this, they were essentially recommending these videos because, and I believe it, because nobody reported it yet, nobody did this, nobody essentially, nobody was paying attention to it. Nobody was writing articles about it. Once somebody wrote an article about it, they probably attached something to that channel that allowed it to not be recommended. But if it was a brand new channel that was putting out a recruit video for this, then it doesn't care if whatever recruits are watching this, if they're giving it to a link and they see 100% watch time, they're going to start pushing it to everybody. And what it ended up being is a recruitment video for ISIS, and now they're going and getting trouble over it. Some people might care about this, might not care about this, but this is huge. If it was truly neutral, like Dex said, this would be an amazing world. But the bad things that could come out of this is if they even go further down the road of if they completely dump this, then it could screw all of us. They could just get rid of anything risky whatsoever, and they would be justified by saying, well, we're responsible for it. Them saying that because it got suggested and that's why this person perished, I don't know. I guess this is a very complicated scenario, but where do you sit on this? People are for and against Section 230, but it's a very unique place coming at it from being a creator and knowing how this system screws people over. It's kind of like what do you call it? It doesn't treat anybody equal. Once they have marked you, it's not equal whatsoever. So. And then Air Force vets testified to witness discrimination. It's kind of like discrimination because somebody could make a living over here, somebody won't be able to here. And they're not told what that is. It's not transparent. It's not told to us out front. Air Force vets testified to witnessing UFOs turn off nuclear warheads. Yeah. It said that and this could be very well a distraction from everything else, Air Force vets have testified to witnessing mysterious objects turn off 10 nuclear warheads and shoot test missiles out of the sky at U.S. bases in interviews with the Pentagon's UFO office. It says that the Pentagon UFO's office is investigating historic reports of mysterious objects interfering with key nuclear missile silos. 2 Air Force veterans told DailyMail.com that they have testified to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, what a stupid name, AARO, this month about their experiences of UFOs interfering with U.S. nuclear missiles. One email shows the AARO staff contacted former U.S. Air Force ICBM launch officer Robert Salas to gather information about his chilling encounter with an orange flying disc that inexplicably turned off 10 warheads at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana in 1967. So they're saying little green men turned off our nuclear weapons. Dex, as far as this goes, this is, by the way, that's a very familiar, Robert Salas, isn't that like Dr. Robert Salas, or isn't that somebody that's...
Yeah, Bob Salas. This is not a new story. This is a story we have talked about numerous times, but what's new is that they're actually testifying to the organization, their testimony about these two events, specifically, and the one I hadn't heard, and I'm sure it was out there, it's probably not new news because this happened so long ago, was that one of the UFOs actually shot down a missile that we had launched, a test missile we had launched. They said it took it out. They saw a saucer do that, or a flying object do that. So this is the testimony that they were given. I don't know, we'll never know where it's going unless the AARO comes out and gives us, some more insight. This is just their commentary about their testimony to them. So kind of fascinating. If it's new to you, then it's an interesting story. To most of us, we've heard this before, but it's just interesting that it's now being testified again, at least in this time, to the new Pentagon office that's investigating the UFOs.
Okay, I'm sorry because I don't want this to come back 10 years later. But somebody says they could have been purple or pink. Don't discriminate. And you are completely right. I didn't mean to, they don't have to be green. Just saying. I should probably tweet an apology or something. They could be, chartreuse. They could be purple. They could be purple. They could be boom. Yeah, I got to do a song now. All right, moving on. A record number of Americans applied for a second citizenship in 2022. These are the 11 countries where you can buy a golden passport. So we've talked about this before. They did set the record. So all of these people are buying a Plan B golden passport is what they call it. And these are passports you can buy. You can buy a citizenship if you spend so much money in that country, or it says again. So number one, Austria. Estimated you have to spend $9.5 million there, and you will get a citizenship. This is crazy that you can just buy a citizenship, considering how much, how hard people work to get these things. But if you're rich, you can just do what you want. It says even if you can afford the multi-million-dollar price tag, Austria's citizenship investment program is incredibly selective. Under Article 10, Section 6 of the Austrian Citizenship Act, the Austrian government is able to award citizenship to foreigners who show extraordinary merit. Basically $9.5 million. See, merit means money. And contribute significantly to the state's interests, either scientifically, culturally, or economically. So, unlike in other countries, applicants, you must invest directly into the Austrian economy. This can include setting up a business, creating jobs, or introducing new technologies, according to the Austrian law experts. Number two is Antigua and Barbuda. You could literally get, this is not much. Dex, were you surprised how low some of these were? 100,000. Oh, sorry, I muted you. My bad. I was switching you back over. $100,000.
Yeah. The lower ones aren't necessarily investments; they're donations. So, in this case of Antigua and Barbuda, you have to give a $100,000 donation to the country's national development fund. Now, you can do other things like invest in real estate, but it's got to be 400,000 or more. So these numbers change around depending on the country, but it seems like the cheapest way in is to literally donate. But that's also I think it's more palatable to invest, because when you invest, you potentially get your money back. But yeah, it's amazing the setups that all these different countries have to give people a golden passport where they can get dual citizenship. And the fact that the record has been set this last year should be telling to us what the elite is doing, what they're doing right now. Why are they planning? Why did they spend last year building up, and getting these double passports more so than any year before?
I think it's pretty clear why. I mean, people are, and it's not because of who ended up getting picked or who's running Twitter. I'm leaving. It's because people are knowing, and these are the very wealthy. They're seeing what's happening. Grenada. I mean, a lot of these are around $100,000 to $150,000. St. Kitts and Nevis. You can be in the Caribbean islands if you invest $100,000, which in American money, you can't buy a shack. I don't think you can buy a coffee shop for $100,000. I mean, like, that's nothing here. The average house here is like $750,000 for a little tiny house. $1 million house is not a mansion like it used to be. Do you remember when somebody said, "Oh, they live in $1 million house," and you were like, "No, does it have vacuums in the wall?" Now it's like, "Oh, does it have doors? Does it have plumbing?" $1 million. Oh, poor thing. St. Lucia, $100,000. Man, that's actually like, that's kind of awesome that for so cheap you could have a second citizenship. Now, most people would have to save up for years, but I mean, that's less than saving up for a house. You could save up and then have a dual citizenship, go there and get a cheap house and actually live. I don't know. This is nuts, though. Why are so many people leaving? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I mean, you could live somewhere with multicolored doors. You could be purple and you can be... That song was about those doors. And then before we move on, Cuba suffers third major blackout in a week. Speaking of blackouts, if you don't want your personal devices, your cars, your trucks, and everything else that you own to die during an EMP or a CME, a coronal mass ejection, then you can get an EMP shield and actually protect it. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to hear about EMP shield because now they are involved with this whole CHIPS Act. And the USA made huge news yesterday. They're pushing to, of course, open all of these crazy chip manufacturing companies. We're saying that we're going to be manufacturing everything made in America again, and that's because of the threat of Chinese chips and some sort of backdoor. I mean, it's like the writing is all over the place. We have been infiltrated. So EMP Shield is now helping protect different devices, but they've also worked with DoD, DHS, and now they're going to be investing up to $1.9 billion in making these facilities to make protected chips that won't be able to have a backdoor in. So it's pretty cool, especially since we've known EMP Shield and the founders since before they got ever their first contract with any of this big stuff. And they were making these by hand in a tiny place in Kansas. Now they're still making them by hand, but now they, after all of these crazy contracts to protect agencies like DHS, DOD, and all of this, now they are much bigger. But again, they still have the same folks running it. It's 100% American made, and it's a veteran-owned company. So it's kind of it's an awesome story about how they came up. Marfooglenews.com/EMP. You can get protection for your trucks, your cars, your motorcycles. What it does is it grounds the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. And it can actually protect your home if it's wired in, but you do have to have a licensed professional, licensed electrician put it in your house. But once you do, you'll be able to protect everything plugged in within 250 linear feet. So most houses, most $1 million houses with doors and plumbing, that is. That's marfooglenews.com/EMP. You'll get $50 off per device. So if you could think about that, if you have a family full of cars and you're trying to protect all of them, you'll get $50 off per device, and that stacks on top of any discount that they have going or any kind of sale. Our discount is grandfathered in. We were with them when they were, again, a very new company. Now they've been out for years. They are a trusted Keystone military tested product. So go and get yourself protected because nobody else is going to protect you. That's marfooglenews.com/EMP. And it also protects anything against lightning as well. So with Cuba, this is how many of you believe that this was somebody else that did this? Now, I'm going to open up, I'm going to put this up for a second. Let's put this on screen. I'm going to do a 1, 2, or 3 type thing here. How many of you believe another country, how many of you believe the USA was a part of this? Press 1. How many of you believe another country was involved in this? And how many of you think this was just an electrical failure? Press 3. And I'm going to pull up the chat here so this pops up. So 1, U.S. did it. 2, another country did it. Or 3, it was just how they say it is, an electrical failure. I guess I made the options pretty simple, huh? Oh, Island by the Sea. I bet you see Island by the Sea, though. I think you're just a rebel. You're like, I don't care. I'm just going to go the other way. But they still think somebody else did it. Because the official narrative, Bobby Sue, one, did the massive blackout in Cuba. Third major blackout in a week. Their power grid keeps getting hit. And it says that out of Havana, Cuba on Tuesday suffered its third major blackout in little more than a week, leaving a vast swath of the center and the east of the island without power, Energy's officials said on state-run TV. Cuba's midday television news broadcast said it was investigating the causes of the electrical failure and that the country's state-run electrical company had begun work to restore power. It says the blackout Tuesday spanned 430 miles from Cienfuegos province to south central Cuba to Guantanamo on the far southeastern tip. It said that leaving more than half of the country's population of 11 million without power. Scattered blackouts were also reported in the capital of Havana. The mass electrical outage, the third in a week, left many of Cuba scratching their heads and concerned about what the energy-intensive summer might bring, when many residents crank up their air conditioning to stay cool in the Caribbean heat. It says blackouts in the communist-run Cuba, a country already suffering from severe shortages of food, fuel, and medicine, touch a political nerve and are widely seen as the tipping point that led to an anti-government protest in July of 2021, the largest since former President Fidel Castro's 1959 revolution. On Saturday, another blackout cut power for millions of people in Matanzas, east of Havana. Now, by the way, Dex, where would Cuba sit if we were in a World War III? Would they be one of our adversaries?
Yes, they would. They've been aligned with Vlad. They've been aligned with Venezuela and others that are adversaries to ourselves.
So just a thought. It would make sense if, say, this was a message or from somebody saying, like, you know, we're gonna screw the little guys up. We can knock out your power. We can do all sorts of stuff. I wonder, you know, what is going to come out of this. We'll follow it and see if they have an answer. I wouldn't be surprised if they said that the U.S. or NATO or somebody did this. The minister said unexpected problems with generation could flare up again in coming month, causing severe blackouts, but nothing like the 10-hour average of October of 2022. So that's a huge number, by the way. When we had our most massive storm, we had 2 million out of power, and it was insane. The whole area of Washington, everything was out. That was big. That would be like all of New York City plus more just having zero power. Well, I think New York has like 9 million people, right? Or is that the whole state of New York? That's a lot of people losing power, and over 430 miles. That's a gigantic area. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, or of course, let me know in the chat. By the way, thank you again, Danish Girl, stopping by last night. Blue Boy 1968 says houses in Melbourne, Australia go for a minimum of $1 million plus great show like always. Thank you. Yeah, and I assume Australia is pretty close to the U.S. dollar, but $1 million it's just so crazy. It's kind of like in Austin Powers where he's like, we want $1 million. And then everybody's like, oh, okay, 1 million? And then he's like, 1 billion. It's like, literally, it's nothing now. It says Liz Smith, thank you. I appreciate the super sticker. And then Casey1776, thank you. West Max Roofing says, love the show. Look forward to you guys every weekday. God bless. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And then Jules B, global warming my behind. We're ready to throw them in a snowdrift. Jules B, thank you for your support. K Holmes, Marf and Dex mods, thank you for all running such a smooth show. So much appreciated. Thank you, K Holmes. Appreciate that. And then Zen1AZ, thank you so much for being the last one out, along with Danish Girl and Stephen McMahon on the last show. Also over on D Live, thank you everybody that's over there. Vicky K, thank you for stopping by. Sorry about the late show last night. And then MJ 1979, Johnson, and Animated Adventure, Amanda Rachel, Kimbria, and Yobi. All right, and then Dex, do you want to go over Russia says stranded astronauts to return from ISS in September?
So this date keeps moving. We had originally talked about them launching in February. Now they're saying they're not coming back until September. Obviously, they're having problems of some sort. I don't know why they pushed the date back so far to rescue these astronauts that are, and they don't like to use the word rescue, but they're basically saying the new craft that will return them home, the return flight is now going to be sometime in September. So this keeps shifting quite a bit, although they do expect the broken one to actually come back in March. So that will have nobody on board, but we'll have to see what happens.
Well, and we've covered since the beginning the ISS, the whole situation with that. I know a lot of people debate on what's actually going on up there, but they also China created their space station. I haven't really seen much about that. They were supposedly finishing it, or that it was done, and they put the third and final piece. And connecting that third final piece was really simple, I'm sure it would be complicated, but the thing just clips on and it's done. So I just wonder what is going on with the other space station, and then our Russian. Does anybody know? Does Russian cosmonauts, are they going into the Chinese space station? And how long will the ISS even be around? And let's see here. We talked about the Grandpa fighter jets. Oh, so Dex, let's touch back on this. So they're turning their really old jets into essentially these suicide drones, and this is exactly what Russia did. This is exactly what other smaller countries were doing too. Now they have the technology to make a full-on older jet into, and they have a machine. We saw that, we covered this. There is an actual bot, a remote control bot that can be put into a plane. There's even AI ones now, autonomous ones that can be put in the pilot seat of a normal plane. They don't have to do any conversion, and it actually will pilot. It has arms and different things that can pilot a plane without anything else. And then it hooks into the computer, and it can do all of the stuff that's supposed to be done by buttons, so they can convert anything, any kind of plane, into a drone. And that's really crazy to think about, especially if you saw a fleet of jets coming our way. And so say if there's 40 of these old jets that, again, should have been thrown in the garbage or in a museum somewhere, these things are going to be used. Also, it's older technology. We talked about how the older the technology, the more that our new technology didn't even work with it. An EMP wouldn't even affect these things, or if they protected the inside of this drone thing, because all of the old gear in it. But if you saw 40 of these, even if we had put up 5 of our best jets and knocked out 20 of them, if another 20 or even 5 or one of them gets through, these things could carry explosives and go boom, and it would be very hard to stop if they have numbers and numbers and numbers of them. Not to mention, this might happen at the same time you have piloted planes with huge fleets of planes coming over from somewhere else. Dex, what did you think about this when you saw that?
Well, as you give this description, it makes me think of Otto from the Airplane movie, the inflatable autopilot that basically took over. That's what I'm envisioning here. But no, in a serious level, they're actually, about 350 of these that they're going to retire. But instead of throwing them in a boneyard, they're going to put them in a position where they can use them as a one-time use. Basically a flying boomer, if you want to call it that, that ends at its destination. So I guess it's a novel way to recycle this stuff in the sense that we can extend life. to these older jets, but it's also kind of scary when you think about like these older jets if they're flying them around. And I guess when you see them, you're only going to see them once.
And it looks like we have an actual picture. This is coming in just now. We have an actual picture of one of the Chinese drone older planes cockpits outfitted with the newest technology. Yep. Scary. Absolutely terrifying. And then China, furious after the U.S. warns against arming Russia. The U.S. is in no position to tell China what to do. They're essentially saying we are pumping UKR with all of these weapons, and we're saying, oh, how dare you give them weapons. At the same time, we know that that's their no-limits partner. I have no doubt that China is giving them weapons and possibly going to be giving them troops when this all goes down. Dex, what do you think about this whole thing?
It's definitely not good for relations between us and Xi, but obviously they're pissed, and I guess you could say it's easy for them to be that way when you look at the fact that we're arming one side, and if they were to arm the other side, they would be doing the same thing we're doing. So and we're calling them out saying that they shouldn't be doing that, and we're doing it, and they're doing it. So kind of a sticky situation. Doesn't necessarily bring any of the tension down that has been built up between the US and China. If anything, I think it just exasperates it some more.
Well, and what we're going to see, and this is just my prediction, is that China is going to get heavily involved in this conflict in the next few months. And we're going to see article after article of all the ways that China is helping Russia. At the same time, we're going to see the Patriot systems go into effect. This is coming soon. But right now, we're 3 days away from the 24th and the anniversary. So a lot of people are bracing for anything right now. I sure hope there's nothing bad. But if you look at, what has been speculated and rumored, I guess we better hope that none of those rumors are true. I guess I'm part of many people, probably a lot of you here as well, feel the same way. I believe this could happen any second, and I believe we could be hit. Every time my power goes out or something happens and you hear the lights go, every time that I can't text or call somebody, the first thing I do is I check other things. One of these days, all of a sudden you're not going to be able to make a call. All of a sudden your TV and your power is going to go out. You're going to look outside and you're going to see cars and everything else not working and the rest of the neighborhood's down. If your car stops and your phone is out at the same time, that's when you know things have gone down. I don't think it's crazy. I don't think anybody else here is crazy. I think it's crazy not to see this coming. But again, let me know what you think down below. And then hackers claim to have caused Russian websites broadcasting Vlad's annual address to go offline. I wonder who this was. I really do. I mean, do you think that this was the U.S.? Do you think that this was Russia itself doing it to make it look like the U.S.? Either way, this very creepy speech, which they're covering little points of it, but if you watch this thing in entirety, it's really eerie. They essentially say this is about to get really spicy, and it was more arguing with people like, we can do this and we're going to do this, and here's how we're going to do it. They even said at points like, we're going to do this and we don't have the money figured out exactly yet, but we'll figure it out in a second and we'll do it and take care of it. He had standing ovations to all of this, which I assume is like ours, where people stand up where they think it's a good point. But people did not sit down. One of them, they stood up for so long, and it was basically talking crap about the West and how they're our enemy and that there needs to be a change in power. I mean, this is really spooky stuff, like a speech that you would see out of a video game or something of the protagonist enemy. It's quite creepy. Now, Dex, in the hacking of this, do you think that they didn't want his message to get out, or do you think they were trying to make a point, or just annoy him, or show that we can screw with his ability to speak to his own people, or something?
I'm certain there's a message behind it. It's being claimed by two different groups, so they didn't take the entire speech down. What they did was they went after the major sites that were streaming it, the major news organizations that were Russian state-owned agencies, and they did a DDoS attack against them. So most of them went dead about halfway through, or for a portion, and had to put up like a trouble error message on their screens. Two different groups. One, the IT Army of UKR, which is a volunteer cyber warfare organization, is claiming that they did it, and then another group also that says that they're working on behalf of Alexander Navalny, said that they were the ones that were responsible for it. So who knows? Maybe there's multiple groups that were involved here, but definitely if it's these two different groups, they're doing it to make a statement and to make him look bad.
Well, it did go offline for a while, and that might have affected. That's because I was watching, and then all of a sudden it cut out, and then I ended up on somebody else's that had a different translation of it, and that might have been where that what happened there. But I did end up rewinding back so I didn't miss any of it, because there were a lot of points made there that I think if you see it in context, it is useful information. And no, it's our adversary directly talking about what the future or the next year is going to be like, and it's pretty clear they're not going to stop anytime soon. And it says the U.S. believes Russia carried out intercontinental ballistic missile test while Biden was in Ukraine. Why he was in UKR still bothers me. If you watched my short video earlier on Marfoogle News, it's super sketch. Like we said last night, this is just the sketchiest thing ever, especially with all of the other, I guess, accusations that have gone against the big guy. It's really freaky to me that he would go there, and why they would put him on a train for 10 hours. That's like almost like putting him on a rolling dartboard. I mean, like, what are you doing? A train is on a track, so they know exactly where it's going. It's like you don't normally do that. And even if they had guarantees, we won't attack during this time, I guess we're best friends with them at this point, right? And at the same point, they said that they did a SARMAT test, and their logic of why they don't think it went well is because they didn't bring it up in the speech. If you saw the vibe of the speech, he was getting people support. If anything, you have to say, and I saw the translated version of this, and I was trying to communicate this the best way without looking like... You have to understand that the way that Vlad talks to his people is a lot the way that T-Man talked. And if you associate him as like this evil dude, then that's saying that T-Man's an evil dude. The way that I'm saying he's communicating to his people is that he's a normal guy, that he communicates like he's on the same level as his people. And that's a talent, and obviously he was in the KGB. He's probably he's a chess master. The dude's not stupid. But he's also somewhat of a social chameleon. If you've seen clips of him in public, he's done things that have put him at risk numerous times, where he's in public and he'll go out without a security and, greet people and do all these things that are super dangerous for a president to do. And there are blogs dedicated to like pointing these things out in Russia that it's given people there the impression that he's the man of the people. Well, in his speech, he says this is BS and blah, 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 this and that. And on TV and when they do things, they talk to their people in a different kind of way, kind of like T-Man, where T-Man wasn't a politician when he came in. And you have to admit, even if you don't like T-Man, he was not a politician. And he didn't talk like one, and he didn't give you the normal lines. He would even say, oh, that guy's full of esh. He's full of it. That guy's a dipstick, that kind of stuff. And people can relate to that a whole lot more. Like I said the other week, where this female representative, a representative of the people, was complaining because the dress code in Congress said that she couldn't wear her $12,000 dress. They're representing us, the people, but they're totally separated from what us, the people, are. As somebody who doesn't spend more than $100 on my entire outfit and probably wears about 4 outfits ever, that's not representing me. Even if you were in a position of Congress and very powerful, I understand wearing a nice suit or a nice female suit or a dress suit or dress attire. But $12,000, that's just stupid. That's like the thrift shop song, like, $110 for a t-shirt. That's just a ripoff, But my point is that there's that. And then there's like the T-Man and the Putins that say, hey, this is BS. People relate to that. And what's scary is that this is a guy who can mobilize a country and have them fully behind him when he's saying that the enemy is us. So if he has the people's support, that's not a good thing. He's calling for to take back all of the land that he feels should be a part of the former USSR. He wants to put the Soviet the land back together. It's clear that this is actually turning out to be somewhat of this the 10% of the truth over the last year. It does seem like that is the goal after watching that speech. And maybe it would have been different if we would have agreed to his terms way back. But we didn't, and now we're in this position. What do you guys think, though? Convince me otherwise. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I think he is... I think all of these countries are getting ready for a massive war. Dex, you didn't get to watch the whole thing because it was really late, and you said you fell asleep to part of it because you had the bad translator.
Yeah, I did. I listened to the guy who was speaking at the same volume as Putin. I actually woke up and realized that it was on and tried to catch a little bit of it, and it was very difficult to understand. And then I went to sleep. So I figured I'd wait for the translation, which we do have on the website, and we'll be showing later in the show. We do have the transcript as presented from Vlad, not from someone else's interpretation. So it's exactly what they wanted to publish in English. So that's available.
Now, do you want to talk about what everybody is talking about as far as this veiled nuclear threat? He said to his people, because if you are a citizen there, you're a normal person, you're watching this, and he says we're suspending this nuke treaty, you're going to hear the same news from them as well. Like, this is a big deal. Now there's no nuke treaties. He told them in his speech, hey, just so you know, I'm just pausing this. We're suspending this. We're going to go back to the table and try to rework it. But he's not telling his people he's going to nuke us. But the media here is basically saying that he's putting this in place. He very well might be. Right now, there's no inspections back and forth. We don't know what's happening with their stuff. He made a big chunk of talking about how the U.S. and other countries are behind in their nukes, and some of the nukes are about to expire. He talked about how our nuclear weapons are about to expire. There's very, very old ones that we have to modernize, otherwise they won't even work with our gear. And he said, we're not going to be stuck in that position where we've been modernizing, and we're going to do this with ours. If you watch that speech, what did you think of what was said here? But Dex, as far as like stopping this last treaty, what does that actually mean? Should people even be scared of this, or is this just to scare other countries into backing out of support?
This is the specific treaty we signed that would put a cap on the number of long-range nuclear warheads that both of us would can deploy and use, and also it involves the limitation or the restriction of testing. As I believe, it also includes the creation of new. That obviously nobody's been creating anything new. They've been creating new delivery systems, but not new actual warheads, so to speak. So if this goes away, and what we had been talking about is before this was the US was saying, hey, they're not abiding by these things, or these dates have come and gone and they didn't do what they said, so we think they're leaving it. Well, he came out and said it flat out. Yeah, we're going to suspend it. And he also said we may even test, if especially if the US starts testing, then we're going to start testing. So yeah, it is a big deal, because we as a globe, tried to get everybody that was making nukes to stop making them, so that we wouldn't have more. We could limit the number that were out there, and that this could basically stop all that progress, and we could go back into a complete arms race for nukes.
And as far as these tests scare the crap out of people. If you remember during T-Man's time, when NK was constantly testing them, there was a point where almost everybody was at one point or another saying, like, this is pretty scary, because they kept reporting the earthquakes from the hits when the nuclear missiles would hit and blow up, and they said there was an earthquake in this area and they're testing nukes, and if you keep seeing that, it does end up scaring people over time, especially when it just seems like it's not going to end. If Russia starts doing this, the Sarmat is a giant missile. It can launch up to like 15 or 16 warheads. It can knock out like 3 or 4 states at a time. It's a state killer. These are crazy weapons that they're talking about. And technically under this, if they don't have a treaty, they could create 10 more Sarmats and launch and test them and do whatever the heck they want. This whole agreement was what kind of put us at peace for a while, or at the closest thing we've been to peace. And the whole, mutually assured destruction thing, it was like, well, we need to get rid of this. We already have way too much. We have enough to put the world into a black hole. That's going away. This is all things that we've told you over the years would happen. And now it's happening. Like 2 or 3 years ago, we had guests on our show that we talked about this subject specifically, saying, well, watch out for them getting rid of all of the pacts and treaties around nukes. This is something that would happen when the relations completely fail. But everybody's debating on, what's fake news or not. They have really done a number on all of us, because we don't know what to believe. And that makes you even more scared. I would say at least make your own judgment call on this. And I would say there's no downside to prepping and preparing for a possible event. And then this is the actual document. This is on the website as well. If you want the actual transcript, it is on here. So if you do want the transcripts, all you have to do is go to the actual tab here, and then the presidential address to the Federal Assembly, and you can scroll down and you can read the official transcript of what he said. There are parts of this, he goes over his side, and there are things that you look at the United States side and you do see that it is accurate, but you don't know if we would have answered differently, would they have actually gone through on their end of it? Like when they said, hey, if you give us guarantees, you won't put bases and things there that will pull out. If we would have done that and given them the guarantee they wanted, would they still have pulled out, or would they have kept going and invading? We will never know, because we didn't do it. So who knows? He could have totally reneged on anything he did if we would have said yes to any of it. And then President B promises support for UKR as he punches back at Putin for blaming the U.S. for the conflict, which he did almost the entire 3-hour speech. It said that President B hits back at Putin, blaming the U.S. for conflict, and says that UKR will never be a victory. President says Russian leader can end conflict, calls him a dictator bent on building an empire, and claims his lust for land and power will fail. President JB hit back at Vladimir on Tuesday evening, blasting his claim for the U.S. wanted to destroy Russia and saying that the conflict in UKR was entirely the Russian president's doing. He dismissed Vlad as a dictator who was bound to lose as he delivered a speech in Warsaw, Poland. What's crazy is during WW2, you had these same kind of grandiose speeches, and a lot of these speeches that ended up happening were completely wrong from what ended up happening in history. So I would take it with a grain of salt as far as both sides saying the other side's going to lose. We don't know what's going to happen at this point, and we don't know who's going to jump in. There's a bar fight, and we don't know who's going to jump in and sucker punch. The United States and the nations of Europe do not seek to control or destroy Russia, President B said to cheers in the grounds of Warsaw's royal castle. The West was not plotting to attack Russia, as Vlad said today, and millions of Russian citizens only want to live in peace with their neighbors, are not the enemy. This conflict was never a necessity, it's a tragedy. So with this and with all of the, which by the way, isn't that, those are the Ukrainian colors in a sun, like a rising sun. Wonder if anybody can pick out any symbolism in this whole setup. It's not the red dawn background that he had once before, but definitely has some purpose there. And gargoyles in the background. What are those up there? Love to see if somebody wants to send me photos of what that building is with those creatures above there. I wonder if that has any symbolism there. But as far as yeah, I guess it's who you believe, right? We saw this blog post, and this Pulitzer prize-winning author essentially put out the exact way that he believes that the U.S. did these horrible events towards their pipes. And that was a huge deal because it would technically be some sort of, it would be an attack from the U.S. to their infrastructure. It depends on who you believe, right? There's been many events during this conflict where our community was questioning what the heck our side was doing. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, what do you think of that background? There's like the lasers kind of remind me of the Hawaii, what do you call it? The Hawaii lasers that were scanning the island. There's like
those. I don't know if those are lasers or if they're just the lights
and fog.
Yeah, and the fog or something. But yeah, if for those that want to look into this more, it's Warsaw's Royal Castle is where this took place.
And there's like there's waves or something in this. But yeah, I guess, it looks cool, but is that the only reason? There's always purpose behind everything they do. When they set this up, maybe this was Poland's decorators or something setting it up, but they put this like rising sun with the blue top. Maybe there's nothing to it, but what is this symbol? Isn't that something there too? Is that the Warsaw coat of arms or something? I'll have to look at pictures of the actual building. And then Russia aims to absorb Belarus. You got my opinion on this over on Marfoogle News on the short shareable video. Make sure to go check that out after and share it out with friends and family. Dex, do you want to give your input on the absorbing Belarus documents?
Well, obviously it's something that was leaked, or am I Roboto?
Yep, 1 second. There we go. You're good.
Yeah, obviously it's a leaked document, as they're claiming, but it's showing that Belarus becomes part of and gets annexed in as part of Russia. So that would be consistent with some of the messaging we've heard about them wanting to rebuild sort of what they had with the USSR, where they had a larger that were part of their nation. So if nation building and growing is something that Putin wants to do, then this definitely supports that claim that a lot of people have been making. And just the fact that they're annexing locations out of Crimea, annexing other locations in UKR on the eastern border, and then the potential threat that others have seen with Moldova, and then of course Poland making the claim that they think they're next. So this whole notion of everybody thinking that he's wanting to build a larger nation, this all supports that claim.
Yeah, and well, if it's true, and the fact that this came out at the same time as the speech, we don't know if this is Ganda or if this is fake, and our side came out with this to back up a narrative that we don't even hear yet. The mainstream media in the next week could be pushing that after this speech, they could use parts of it to kind of put their narrative out there that he wants to put together the old USSR. But again, I listened to the whole thing, and if the translation was correct, it certainly sounded like it. And with the delivery of the British gentleman that was delivering it, it sounds like he had a good grasp of how Vlad was saying it. It sounds very spooky. It sounds like something that's an historic speech that you look back on, and if you had an event after, so you're looking back after a World War III, you would look back at the speech and go, wow, he said all of this stuff here. I guess there's been a couple speeches recently that have just given me the heebie-jeebies, and that was one of them. And then 4 convoys of military material moving from Minsk towards the Lithuanian border. So many, Fugel, by the way, somebody brought up an explosion in St. Petersburg. I don't know if that is absolutely breaking news. I looked at that in the background. I did not find anything from this year. I found something from November, and I found something else. Dex, I forgot to mention this about half an hour ago. A Fugel fan member said, coming in late, did you see the thing about the explosion in St. Petersburg in Russia? Or unless it's not talking about Russia, I put Russia in all my searches. But if you could see if there's any news or anything on Twitter.
I'll look.
It would be freaky if we saw an attack in Russia or something right now as we're live. But I checked on my own. I could not find anything from this year. I saw something about November 19th, 2022, last year. And then I saw something from about a week ago from St. Petersburg, but it didn't have anything to do with an explosion, or it was a pipe. It was like a gas explosion thing at a restaurant. So I did check on that. If I do see something like that or a comment in the chat, no matter who it is, I usually try to look it up or add it to the show.
Did they say Russia, or did they just say St. Petersburg? Because
they said St. Petersburg.
Yeah, there's a structure fire in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Okay, so that was my question. If it wasn't Russia, if it was something here, can we get some sort of article if there is one on that? Because we'll see what. Wouldn't be surprised if it was like a food processing plant. Because they're wiring. It's like there must have been a company that was like, oh, we're a company that makes food processing plants, and we do all of our own electrical work, and we also were born next to a nuclear dump site. And Lifeboat says, thanks, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Thank you, Lifeboat. Again, Tommy, you don't have to super chat. Thank you so much. Again, appreciate your support. Again, I think people should be going over to your channel. I think you guys are doing a great thing. I actually found a great Twitter account. I think it was Linzer or something like that. But I think I mentioned you guys. But I think if you guys haven't checked out the Lifeboat, the Lifeboat's run by Tommy, and then also he has Wages World on as a co-host, and they help people in recovery, and they talk about issues in the recovery world as far as staying sober and all sorts of controversial topics that are taboo. They go over it on their channel, and they're helping people. The community over there is really, really great. You'll see a lot of Foogle fam over there, regular people that have gone through crazy, tough times. But Tommy's doing a great thing by doing that. And then also Wages World, who is the co-host there, also has Wages World, his channel, which is about solar events. So Wages does double duty, and you'll also see him from time to time over on the Lifeboat. So if you like Wages World, you like Tommy and the Lifeboat. But thank you. And again, you don't have to do that. And if you do like $1 or $2, I think you can write a message. And then Bunny Haw, hey, I want to let all the ladies know that you can find your tribe with an organization of women preppers called Mama-litia. No way. That's pretty. I shouldn't say it's sweet. It could be like a group that's planning to take us down or something, but it probably is an awesome group. It says we're a nationwide organization that trains in food preservation, water purification, and homeschooling, etc. Bunny Haw, that sounds awesome. The Mama-litia. That's the coolest name ever. Like, I guess, would it be weird if I joined a Mama-litia? What about the Daddy Delicious? No, that didn't. That just went horribly wrong. Sounded like Sam Smith or something. All right, moving on. Before we go, though, to the next story, I do want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, you can support our independent news channel and get yourself one of the best solar generators out there. Go over and check out Energy. Energy is a solar generator, which means that not only can you charge this as basically a giant battery bank, but you can also charge this with solar panels. If you get a package with solar panels, you'll be able to set up from day one, plug the solar panels with one cord into this, and you'll be able to get power straight from the sun. This stores that power so you can use it whenever you like. These are awesome units, not only because they are silent, so if you are, SHTF scenario, you don't want people knowing you have backup power. These are absolutely silent and they go stealth, but also because they are built like tanks. Anybody that already has one of these, again, the X2 are shipping out almost immediately. These are much easier to get. These are the all built-in one, and they are the new lithium ion phosphate technology, which brags just absolutely insane charge cycles, numbers, and a lifetime battery that literally is just absolutely awesome. You can get 6,000 charge cycles out of this. To put that in perspective, you could use it every single day for 16 years, charging it from 100% down to empty, and it will still have 80% of its battery capacity. That is because the lithium ion phosphate degrades a lot less than the regular lithium ion. Now, again, this is a UPS seamless power backup supply, which means if you have something plugged into this and then this plugged into the wall, it does not hurt it, and it will power it basically from your house power. And then the second your power goes out or a storm hits and your power goes out, whatever's plugged into this, say a refrigerator, it will immediately switch over to this power supply. It's very, very awesome. It's great for van lifers. It's great for anybody who goes portable with their power. If you've ever needed to use a drill on a job site and didn't have anywhere to plug in, these things are absolutely awesome. But they come in very clutch to have backup power in the middle of nowhere, or if there is no power, they're incredible. Also, there is the Flex 1500, which is getting better by every single day. This does have a waiting list, so make sure you understand that if you want one of these, this is one of the most coveted solar generator systems out there because it can be edited, it can be modded, it can be changed into an entirely different system, and it can be expanded up to 96 batteries. This system has a waiting list that could be into the months, but if you do get it, you're getting one of the best ones on the market. It's an investment. These are metal, not plastic. They are literally made like tanks. They will last through pretty much anything. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy and use the code Marfoogle. Not only will you save money, but you will also be helping our independent news at the same time. This way, you're getting something you can keep for a very long time and will come in clutch, and you'll be able to use for every time your power goes out, and you'll be helping us at the same time. Thank you, anybody that's already gone through us. And again, if you have questions about it, let us know. If you are waiting on your Flex still, let us know. We can always check on it. I appreciate everybody that has already gone through energy for that. All right, and then Russia preparing for mass mobilization of students, warns UKR intelligence. Well, I don't need UKR intelligence to figure this one out. This is what he said in his speech. And it was one of the things that alarmed me, at least how it was translated. They were building thousands and thousands of houses, and they're essentially going to be giving them nearly free. I mean, very, very, very low-cost housing if they're in the military and if they join in and work in military in any fashion. So even if you're at the Department of Defense there, you're going to get basically a really, really good scenario. Like, you're not going to have to pay almost anything for rent. You're going to have a job. You're going to have all of this. It's basically giving people, they're handing them a life and a home and everything else. And under this, it says that they're preparing for mass mobilization of students. In order to draft these students, so-called alert stations are being created across Russia, which, by the way, they are making structures across the entire country. This is what's definitely very alarming, which will assist military commissars in serving summonses, HUR said. In particular, the management of the Novosibirsk State Pedagogical University, Tomsk Polytechnic University, and Tomsk State Pedagogical, I don't know what the heck that word is, have issued documents obliging the structural divisions of higher education institutions to allocate a certain number of students and employees to work at these, quote, alert stations. Citizens who are not officially subject to mobilization are also planned to be involved in this work. So, by the way, these alert stations, I don't know what they mean by this, but remember the General SVR said that they might be putting their people on a martial law and checkpoint system? They're setting up alert stations all over the country. They're setting up checkpoints in their country. That sounds a whole lot like martial law. And they're creating these buildings to house people in. Dex, we don't know exactly what these alert stations are, but they're basically they're saying that they're going to give a place for the students and other people to be participating in the military, right?
And everything.
Hold on, let me switch you over. Sorry, Dex. There we go.
And everything you were describing from the speech makes it sound like they're doing a lot to bribe or incentivize, if you want to use a less terse term there, incentivize these folks to join or to willingly go into conflict. So definitely doesn't necessarily look like they have a large population of folks that are jumping up and down saying, we want to join, we support this initiative. It's more like, yeah, what can you give me? And I'll consider doing it, whether it be my freedom from jail or do I get a nice house and other benefits, etc.
So, and they're setting up what they call alert stations. The locals say that these things are going up all over the place. So whatever's happening here, it seems like something is going on in actual Russia. On top of all the other little things we've seen, they've set up anti-air missiles on the top of downtown buildings. You're seeing SAM missiles on the top of schools and things. Like, they're setting up for it to go into their country. Something is happening here. It does not sit right. What do you guys think? Let me know. I think it makes perfect sense for what we've thought was going to happen for a long time. But that's just my IMO, right? In my opinion. And then Italy ready to donate 5 fighter jets to Ukraine, but doesn't want to be first. This is just getting stupid. I'll do it, but you do it first. We've heard that like 50 times in the last couple months. I'll do it, but you got to give them 6 jets. If you give them a jet, well, like you got to give them like with big missiles, and I'll give them like little missiles. According to the outlet, Rome, for political reasons, wants to create an impression that it is forced to follow a long line of other partner nations led by the United Kingdom, as the UK is one of the more vocal countries calling for the donation of aviation for UKR. What's crazy, and they also said that the reason why JB went there, a lot of people's opinion on this on the Talking Heads, is that he went there to garner support and say, hey, the U.S. is there, you know, our president is there in person, like we're backing him up 100%, so that other nations will fall in line and going, oh, they did it. They jumped off a bridge. I'll jump off too. Kind of what it is, right? But they are now giving jets, ready to donate. This is exactly what we said. Dex, we said right when this happened, and the whole Foogle fam was saying in chat, they're going to give jets next. It's going to happen. They're going to argue about it, and they're going to say, you first, you do it. It's like they're double daring. I double dare you to give them 6 jets. No, I double dare you to give them 8. Well, I'll only give them 8 if you give them 7.5. Oh, I will. Infinity times 10. Nana, boo-boo.
Nobody wants to be first. It was the same thing with the tanks. So everybody, you know, they say they want to participate, but they don't want to be the ones doing it. Or at first they say they're going to do it, and then they realize that they were the first ones to say it, and nobody else ponied up right then, and they sort of back out and say, hang on a second, we're thinking about this, and then they wait till they get others involved with them. I don't get it. You're either in this or you're not. You know, what's the point of being first or not? You know, unless you feel like you're going to be the only one and it's going to single you out, and then all of a sudden you think that Vlad is going to come after you. Yeah, you know, they're supposed to be a united front, so I don't understand that position.
Smelly Dog said, imagine sending half a jet, LOL. Yeah. Yeah, they'll just give them the cockpit. Yep, that's what the taxpayer gets. All right, well, yeah. You gotta have a sense of humor, because you just gotta. There's impending doom everywhere, so might as well have a fun time. It's kind of like from dusk till dawn, and we just got to get through until the sun comes up. So we'll see what happens. And then remember to sign up for our notifications. I really do believe that we are possibly going to see an information conflict. Information is going to be clamped down on regardless of what happens in the Supreme Court. Let me make sure this pops up here. Make sure to sign up for our email alerts. All you need is a basic email, and you can get email alerts from us. We don't blitz your email box. We barely send anything out. We will be utilizing it a little bit more, but we still don't. This was mainly for if we absolutely knew something was going to happen, we would use this and let you know what we found out. But we've used it a few times to let people know about, upcoming events or giveaways or things. But that's about it. So make sure to sign up for those. In the next year, I have a feeling that we are going to see a lot less creators able to speak. So make sure to sign up for that so we can get a hold of you if we somehow get knocked off, and let us know where we are going to be. So go to marfooglenews.com. All right, and then Dex, let's go over the web only. and talk about some of the stuff going on here.
Absolutely. Head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link. It's the link right there in the description on YouTube and Rumble. It'll take you to our webpage for the show. And as you scroll down past all the news we just covered, you get this yellow bar, and it's the overflow section. It's the rest of the story. So lots of updates going on here. First off, I did not realize, but apparently there was a large religious organization with $32 billion of investment funds, and they're being fined because they were hiding that. So that's there. Major winter storm again heading across the nation. So if you, I'm sure many of you are in that path. You're probably already aware of it, but if you're not, or you didn't know, you can check that out. A new hypersonic contract was issued to Lockheed Martin. That's in there. Definitely have some additional updates around what's been going on. A lot of the little updates in UKR for the different battles and things that have happened, and the rift that's going on with the Wagner group and their lack of ammunition, that's covered in there. And then we've got a few things even with some statements coming out of China where they're kind of telling us to stop comparing Taiwan to the next Ukraine. So that's covered. The political spectrum's in here, a little bit of the stuff going on with T-Man as well as DeSantis, but the Georgia stuff with T-Man will probably be the hottest topic that'll be covering the news in the next few days, as that either becomes something or nothing. If it's nothing, then it'll go away. If it's something, we'll be hearing a lot more of that in the coming days. I'm envisioning some updates with Chat GPT, as well as a really interesting article comparing the far ends of the spectrum, so to speak. You could maybe use the term preppers, techies, hippies, and yuppies, and how they are converging on the West. So that and so much more. I didn't even give it all to you. There's a lot in there. Head over to marfooglenews.com, get the rest of the story. We put that together for you every night. If you missed last night's, click that show and you'll find it down there as well. So everything there, easy to find on the website. If you're on YouTube or Rumble, it's in the description. Just click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here.
And remember, you can also find all of our mods. If you, of course, have made friends with one of our mods and want to check out their channel, we have made it extremely easy for you to go check out their channels. They're all right here on marfooglenews.com/friends. We have a lot of great people there. Of course, Chance Paladin, you can go check out his book over on Amazon. He has actually multiple books, but his new book is out, The Bunker Codes. CJ Blaze, Jammer 1, Lisa R. Hall, Rip Curl Readiness, RGL Harris, Ilea, again, Trinity, Red or Blue Pill, Hi-Ho Kermit the Frog here, and Wages World. Thank you for the mods who did make it, including Ilea and CJ Blaze. I appreciate you. Of course, praying for Lisa R. Hall's daughter, and love you guys. Also, we will see you tomorrow. And yeah. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shouto. It's the shoutro. Shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. All right, let's make a new one for Lifeboat. Thank you for your support, Lifeboat. I appreciate that. Maybe we can make a theme song for the Lifeboat.